Hey everybody, welcome in that new tutorial where we'll see how we can import a crowd simulation as a USD asset into Solaris and how to shade it while benefiting from all the shading attribute diversity that we provide within Golaem. So I'm having a pretty simple scene of just those two characters standing here. I've been exporting the cache first, and once the cache has been exported, I can jump back into that simulation exporter again, switch into the simulation baker tab, enable that USD tab, and just let the rest of the options as they are. So here I'm using the USD procedural mode, and I'm just writing that file out into that directory. So USD procedural is one of the two techniques we're having to export USD file. So we're having either the vanilla scheme skeleton, so USD scale, where we just write skeleton data and we'll let USD process the skinning. But we're also having the USD procedural, for which we declare a new scheme for USD. So it means that it comes with a USD Golaem plugin that you need to install into the DCC. And that means that all the deformations will be processed here and everything will be created by Golaem. So we can jump once the file, well, let's check what about that file, how it looks like. So here we declare a new scheme here, which is called GLM USD. And into that new scheme, it has attributes, which are exactly the same attribute that the one you're having into your render proxy. So especially the name of the render proxy, the name of the crowd field, the name of the cache, where it's been exported, you know, all the stuff that you're casually seeing through the Maya viewport there. We also have a specific attribute for USD, which is called GLM attribute namespace, which is set up by default at primvars. So it just means that every shading attribute which will be attached to your character file will be declared into the primvar namespace within USD. So primvar is the default namespace in which USD will declare them as variables, and you'll be able to read them from your shading graph and feed your shading nodes to create diversity, for example. So this is a really simple file. As you can see, we're not baking anything here because the plugin will be, the USD Golaem plugin will be in charge of recreating everything. So let's see how it looks into Solaris. So here I've been installing that USD plugin already. So please check the documentation on that topic to see how you should install that guy. And once you're into the Solaris viewport, here I set it up to the Karma perspective viewport there. I can just load a file as a sublayer, for example, will be great. And what I'll do is within that file, I'll just load that USDA file that I just shown you into the editor. So as you can see, it's creating everything for me. So all the characters are now present into the viewports. And if we want to expand that stage, we'll figure that we've got that render proxy shape here. So it is the name of the node, then the crowd field, then for each entity, we've got a specific transform with the unique index attached to it. And when we expand this, we are just reproducing the same exact hierarchy than the one we're having within our character file. So here, for example, we're saying that all those characters have a head, body, whatsoever. Also, if you've been, playing with let me redo that again. If you've been playing with the namespace into your character, so let's say, for example, I'm taking a look at the body arms there. We've got something called the export alias. So here you can see I put elo, a pipe, and the name of the mesh, but you can put whatever you want to, and that export alias will just overwrite whatever is written into the mesh asset node. So here, let's say you want to have a specific hierarchy in which you're going to put all your assets. This is something you can do with the export alias. And you can see here, for example, my body arms are within that LO namespace there. Great. Excellent. So all those entity, for example, here into the viewport, when I select the transform, and I look into the entity transform here and I go into the parameters, I can see that I've got a fair amount of primvars being declared. For example, I've got primvar, let's say that one here, manMD body texture index set to 0. If I was about to select another character, let's say that guy here, I would have also the same exact attribute but with different values there. So those are the shading attributes you've been setting onto your characters. So let's go into that body shading group, and we can see we've been declaring onto that mesh an attribute called manMD body texture index with a random value between 0 and 0. And this is exactly what we get on the other side, because we've been putting everything into the primvar namespace, so they're going to appear into every single transform you're having for each of your entities. Great. Just a quick tip, not specifically related to USD, but can be convenient as well. You can attach shading attribute on the mesh here, on the shading group of the mesh, but keep in mind that if you like, you can also attach a shading attribute directly on the root of your character file, and that will make that shading attribute being available for all the meshes, for example, in other contexts. But here in USD, all the attributes will be available for all the meshes. But it's just, a quick way to declare new attributes. So here, for example, I've been declaring a vector attribute, so it's going to be 3 values there. And it'll the name is my attribute for Houdini with a range between, for each component, between 0 and 1, so probably can be used as a color. And once again, for the sake of it, we can check here. We've got something my attribute for Houdini, which has some specific values we can see here. And if we were looking for another character, we'll have, other values there for every single of those guys. Great. So now that we've been understanding everything which is in the scene and how we achieved this, let's move into the shading part. So for the shading part, I'll start by creating a material library. And material library here, I'm going to focus on that one. I'm going to expand this, and I'll start by creating like a USD shader, like a USD preview surface. So this is like a pretty simple shading object there, and that's just to give you some, knowledge, ideas of how you should proceed. But afterwards, we'll deal with more advanced workflows where you can directly deal with MaterialX shaders to get your shading working properly with shading attribute and whatsoever. There's maybe a way to use the principal shader from Houdini, but I haven't tried it. I tried to stick with USD there because I want to use the USD prime vars and so on. And probably my knowledge in Houdini is not so advanced that I can deal with it. So here I'm going to stay with the USD nodes, but keep in mind that probably that can apply to like vanilla Solaris shaders there. So I'm going to redify that shader there. Probably rename this, I don't know, red material, red mat will be great. Excellent. And just a quick word, by the way, about the shading. So let's say I'm selecting a mesh into the USD stage. You can go into that section here to see what's the resolved preview material which is going to be used, or the resolved full material which is going to be used for your characters. And you can see that at the moment, that material is unbound. So when it comes to USD, obviously, well, when it comes to exporting, sorry, obviously when we are writing out that geometry and recreating the geometry into the USD plugin, we are looking if we can find within the same space we're at a material called manMD body for every single body part of my characters. The thing is, we do not export them from Maya because that would mean probably exporting like an Arnold shader as an USD. So this is not really our job to export materials as a USD file, especially third-party shaders. So this is why we can take advantage of USD overrides and so on, that if you do not export those shaders and they're not written at the same level, at the same USD stage level, then your crowd characters is not able to solve those materials. So that makes sense that at the moment my characters are orange and no material are being resolved. So that will be the whole goal of the next node I'm going to apply here. So I'm going to get a assign material node, and that assign material node allows you to put some primitives here and specify a material path which will be assigned. So here I can select, let's say, my red material, and I can say, okay, I want to just shade my 1001 AD character. So 1001, so here you put regular expressions for a material, so you can do, whatever you want to here. Let's say you want to have your 2 first characters being shaded with this. You can just say 1001, 2001, because within that stage part, this is entity 1001, and all the mesh which are contained within it will work. Let's say I would like to use that hello tag I was just referring to. I can just put hello here, and else all my characters have their arm within that hello tag. You can see that now only the arms gets assigned. And obviously I can just say I wanted that hello part of my entity 1001 by just specifying another part of the mask. And well, you know, you're casual familiar with this, so keep in mind also that I don't have to set it here, but if your material is actually solved, so solved means that now if I go into my arm biceps here, we can see that the resolve, full, and preview materials are being set to red material, thanks to that assigned material node. But if they were solved and not unbound, you probably would have to use the strength, change the strength parameter from default to stronger than descendants, which will mean that even if the material has been resolved, you still want to override that part of the graph thanks to that node there. Okay, so let's see how we can maybe make some color variations on this. So let's say I would like to maybe assign this to all my body parts. So all my body part contain the body keyword within it. So like the head, the feet, and the arms. So this is why all my characters get shaded properly for the body parts. And let's say how maybe I want to use that vector-free attributes that I'm having onto my transforms. So if I go back here, I'm having an attribute called my attribute for Houdini. And let's say we would like to take that guy into account into the shading graph. So I can go back into my material library, and if I check the shading nodes I'm having with the USD library, I'm having something called the USD primvar reader. So remember, primvar is the exact same keyword that than the one we were using before. And I can go into that guy here, say it's going to be a vector free, because here that's going to be a vector free value. And I can have a fallback value here, for example. So I can put like 0. I can put some green value here and connect that to that diffuse color. So what happens is, as we haven't specified any variable name here, it will directly fall back to the fallback value, and this is why we are getting this here, that color there. But if I was about to put the name of the attribute I want to read, so my attribute for Houdini, now I'm getting that vector-free value randomly assigned to my various characters, and this is why all my characters now get assigned to a different color. Great. And by the way, so this is something which gets assigned on the Golaem side, but you know, sometimes you're not happy with those attribute values, and you want to override those values, maybe, let's say. So this is also something that you can do, specifically with the edit property node. So oops, let's edit that property there. Oops, I really don't want to create that loop, and activate it. So once again, I can just say that all the primitives will be my body primitives or whatsoever, or just a set part. So let's say body once again here. And I'm going to edit that my attribute property there. So let me check what I'm having here. Oh, I probably want to do this on an higher level. Okay, great. Edit properties. Let's see what kind of properties I can get there. I'm supposed to find my scene here. Let me try to remember how I'm supposed to do that. Edit properties. Let's say 1001 here on my entity first, and see what I get. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Now I get a sense of what I need to do. Is I just needed this to make sure that it displays my primvar there. So what I'm just gonna say is I want to override that my attribute for Houdini, which is right now used into my shading graph. So I'm going to accept this, and you'll see that as soon as I do that, it will just create a vector-free attribute with some default values corresponding to that guy there. And I can just, 0, 0, 1 out this to bluify that guy. And probably now if I put some body there, that would just override the value on that, on all those body characters. But you can also say, I may want to just override the arm color values of my entity 1001, or just on my characters. So if I put arm here, that's just my arm shader attribute, which will be overridden. And I can also specify it's going to be on entity 1001. And now only my arm is going to be blue. So that's the way to edit the properties. So anything which is stored as a prim var here, and also obviously positions, orientation, and so on. But here I'm mostly concentrating on, mostly concentrating on the shading part. But if you want to, override whatever you want to, that's going to be with the edit properties, which allows to set that layer on top of your USD stage. I was referring to the fact that we could also play with MaterialX node. So let's take a look at what we have here. So I'm gonna go within material surface material there, and I'm gonna jump into that guy. Wait. Let me just check what's supposed to be the way we do this here, because it's been a while since I'm having been doing this. I think it's not surface material, but that's probably subnet here. What do we have? Subnet material. Maybe that material. Yeah. Okay. Once again, probably multiple ways of doing this, but that's just one way that we figured. So we can also switch some textures based on this, for example. So material subnet here. Let's call this maybe body material, and we're gonna refer to that later. I can jump into that body material and probably just create like a MaterialX surface material here that I'm gonna put into that part there, or actually directly maybe using it as my so that's a surface output. I think I need to use a standard, standard surface there. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm saying that I'm having a graph there, and I'm creating like a similarly to the standard surface there node that I want to configure the same way that I've been configuring my preview material that I had earlier. So let's put this maybe in another place. I'm not going to use that. And we can play it the same way that we've been playing before. So I can probably redify that color and go back in my stage, maybe create another part of the graph there, like switch here and say we want to evaluate that. Once again, we want to assign that material to the characters and say that we want to assign it to maybe entity 1001, and once again that MaterialX gets assigned. And same than before, as it's a body material, I can just probably write an expression like body material. So now it's using a MaterialX graph, and I can also show you how you can create a texture switcher using the MaterialX library there. So let's go back into our material, into our MaterialX stuff. And if we look at all the MaterialX node that we have, something pretty fancy and useful for us will be the switch node. So the switch node will take a signature attribute, so it can be of type floating or color if you want to. It will take various numbers of entries and write them out into the base color. So here we can say that signature will be colors, for example. We can set different values of colors, and we can expect them to be written out based on the which value that we have here. So let's play with this. So like we'll say, okay, red, entry 2 will be green. You can obviously plug textures there. You get a sense of that, I guess. So let's switch various colors there. Okay, and obviously if I change that which color here, that will just change my entity colors. So interestingly enough, it's not writing the right value out. Okay, I probably need to have some textures to make this work properly. Let's see if okay, it used to work with textures. So what I'll do is I'll probably get some textures first, and we'll see if we can make this work. So we can go into the MaterialX mode once again, bring an image, and I'm gonna plug this onto the first entry there, and we are gonna load a colors. Let me go into my directory here, source image, and I'll grab texture map 1, set this up to 0, so that texture get assigned to my characters. Oh, and now I know what I've been doing here wrong. That's because this needs to be written into my base color rather than my base compound. So okay, now that makes sense. Sorry about that. So probably if I was about to go back into the color mode here and set this to 1, my characters will be green. Okay, great. So sorry, it's just a matter of connection here that I connected it on the wrong position. But anyway, you get the sense, right? If you put 0 there, you get input 1. If you put 1 here, you get input 2 for input 3, and so on and so forth. So what if we want to have variation onto this? So we probably you probably noticed that the characters have some primvars once again, which allow to switch for various textures. So for example, we've got the body texture index, but we notice that those are set up to 0, so they are not going to change from one character to another. So maybe another one we could maybe rely on is the close flag texture index. So this is supposed to be attached to a close flag, but this is moving from one character to another. So let's say we want to benefit from this. I just grab that flag attribute name for the shading graph. So that's going to be here. Let's copy that string, go back into Houdini, and say that now we want to use a which value being driven by some primvars. So once again, within the MaterialX graph, we can benefit from another node, which is going to be geometry prop value. So that's another shader name here. So when you are in the MaterialX context, this is the node you need to use to read that primvar value that we were referring to. So here, this is the one I'm going to take. You can once again define what's going to be the signature. So here, my signature is going to be an integer. The name of my attribute is going to be this one attribute that I've been copying. And the default value, once again, can be interesting. That will be the fallback if you cannot, if the system cannot find any attribute with that exact name into the graph. But if I plug this into the which section, then probably I'm getting out of bound here on some of the characters. Let's see. Oh, and actually the switch has been resumed to some colors there. So I'm not sure already why, probably a bug there. Okay, yeah, I need to reset some colors now. Okay, so now I can get a sense of, shading variation onto my characters. So that character's textures, because he is entity 2001, and entity 2001 has a close flag value of 0, and 0 means that I'm reading the material image. But that guy, for example, is entity 3001, and he has a close flag value to set to 2. And this is why 2 is my third entry into the graph there. And maybe I can also override that property. So that's going to be the final step here. So here I've been showing you some MaterialX shading graph, some USD previous surface shading graph, some assigned material stuff, and once again, if I want, I can edit the properties. So here, those two characters have the same appearance. So let's say I would like to override this. I know there's a way for me to do an attribute. Well, I'm not expert within Solaris and Houdini, so you guys can probably figure some stuff like way faster than me. But once again, I'll just want to give you a sense of what's going on here. But I think I can drag and drop. I know I can do something, not really sure where it is, but anyway. I can edit property here once again. Say I want to apply it to that guy there. So who is he? I think is entity 4001. Okay. So I'm gonna enable this. Say that I want to apply this to 4001 guy. And the property I want to edit is gonna be my close flag once again. So that's the one I want to bring in. Apply, And we can see it's set up to 2 at the moment. And if I just want my characters to have a spread value, I just have to change this and we'll be good. So yeah, hopefully it's it's helping jumping into Solaris and specifically USD. And keep in mind that once you're here, this is just a Golaem file, so everything I've been showing you is exactly the same operations you can apply on your own geometry, even if they're not coming from Golaem. And also, whatever you do onto USD geometry, you can also do it onto Golaem geometry, because they are just native USD geometry being generated into their home stage and their home locations, but it's USD stuff. So all the operation that you will do in Solaris, they apply to those guys on the screen. So yeah, hopefully that helps, and see you into the next video.